Hey there, I'm Carrie, social worker and founder of PlayMotion Kids. Welcome to Wait, Am I Saving the World? This podcast is for people shaping childhood at home, in classrooms, and beyond. Around here, we're having real conversations about what it takes to raise the next generation of change makers. We talk child welfare, child development, parenting, education, and everything it takes to show up for kids without losing yourself or your sanity in the process. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wait, Am I Saving the World? Today, we are joined by Leslie Kuny. She is a dance educator, choreographer, and the owner of Absolute Motion Performance and Dance. She has over 20 years of teaching experience and is known for creating a really supportive studio culture where kids can grow, take risks, and build confidence. She's a passionate mentor and is helping shape the next generation of dancers in a healthier, more human way. So thank you, Leslie, for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm very excited about this conversation.
Me too. So knowing a little bit about your background, you have been teaching since you were really a kid yourself. Tell me a little bit about what made you want to teach young dancers.
Well, pardon me. It started by someone seeing me, which I think happens a lot when we get into the educational space, where someone sees something in you that maybe you don't recognize that you have. So my teacher asked me to be her assistant, which was a very important role. So I was probably 12 when I started assisting dance classes. So that meant Saturday mornings, 9 a.m., 3-year-olds. My job is to take them to the bathroom. My job is to remind them to be quiet, put your feet in first position, all these sorts of things. But I'm working side by side, day in and day out with a dance teacher who is more experienced. So it was a mentorship and like a internship, honestly, like to be 12 and to see how that runs and to watch that person with more experience do that. And I mean, I've always loved kids. I like working with kids. I babysat kids. I remember being in grade 1 probably. And so desperately I remember this vision of like, we were lined up ready to leave the classroom and the chalk was right there by the chalkboard. And all I wanted to do was like start a lesson. I don't know about what. I don't know what I was going to teach my fellow first graders, but I was just like, I want to lead this line of people. That's wild. I don't know who thinks about that at 6 years old, but I think also the drawing on the chalkboard was a big part of it, to be honest, at that age.
It sounded fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a big part of my personality. I do like leadership. I do enjoy working with people. And yeah, so the fostering of that from such a young age, 12, and then I was teaching my own classes by myself at age 17. I took on like my first classes without another teacher there. And I thought I knew what I was doing. I did, but I also didn't. And then you just keep learning. So yeah, it does feel like a piece of now that I'm able to look back on my life a little bit more, it is a part of my personality. And I'm so grateful that my mentor saw it and encouraged it, because I wouldn't be where I am without that.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about Absolute Motion Performance and Dance. What do you guys do? So just tell me all the things.
We are a boutique dance studio. So we are not for everyone. We are for families that are looking for a different type of dance studio experience. So they do not want to be just another number. They do not want to be just another body in a class who, pays their tuition, pays for the costume. Their kid goes on stage for maybe 2 minutes in June and that's it. Like that is a model. And having been in the dance industry, I've been in the dance industry my entire life, having worked in the dance industry for over 20 years. I was like, that's not the experience I want to build, because families are looking for something different. We want to feel included. We want a space for our children to be kids, because there's also the flip side of it where it's push, push, push. And, we've all seen dance mom, like everybody knows about, the dance moms. And that's a really real piece of it as well. And so I was like, well, where do we find this happy medium where we're teaching kids how to dance and we know the life lessons that come along with it? And how do we marry those two in a way that's really like student focused while still creating great dancers? Don't get it twisted. It's my kids are good. My kids are good. But it was, how can we approach this with a different lens that I think is healthier, will keep kids in the studio longer so that they don't turn 12 or 13 and quit because for whatever reason, the demands are too high, or they fall out of love with it because of the studio culture that, there's a multitude of reasons that I didn't want to see kids leaving dance as early as some of them do. So yeah, so Absolute Motion came out of a little bit of rubble of my love of my life, but I think sometimes the best things do. So yeah, just a boutique dance studio where our focus is ensuring we're creating great humans and good dancers.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit about how you do that. What makes it different?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anyone who owns a business knows that everything stems from the top down. So it's all based around my philosophy as a dance teacher, as a dance educator, in that the outdated ways of teaching no longer work, nor do they connect with students. So yelling at a kid multiple times about the same thing, whether it's pointing your toes or picking up your clothes, isn't really the most effective thing. And these are things that I've learned, again, from being in the studio. Telling a kid, point your toes, point your toes, point your toes. There's a disconnect, right? Like if you're saying a thing and it's not happening, instead of putting the blame on the student or the blame on the child, turning inwards and self-reflecting, how can I change what I'm doing? It's clearly what I'm saying or doing isn't connecting with this student, and I want it to. So being open to what is it that I'm not doing, and how can I change my approach to make it better? So yeah, a lot of trial and error, and recognizing that kids being encouraged and held to, I don't want to say standards, that sounds intense, but guidelines or success criteria. My friend Carrie said success criteria. We say, this is what a successful pirouette looks like, or whatever we happen to be working on. And when the students know that that's the goal, and we have to accomplish, these are the 4 steps we have to accomplish to get there, no one's mad that they can't move on, because we've all decided this is what it means to be successful for this one thing. And again, redefining what that success is. It's not having a perfect anything. It's working hard, trying your best, applying the information, all these things. So yeah, so that's like a big major like philosophy about like how I do my work, but also I found more success once I sort of changed gears a little bit to encouraging students more in that way, instead of just harping on them about what they could do better. And once my kids get something, boy, do we have a party. Like there is any student of mine will let you know that I get really loud. Like I really let out like a yes girl, like woo, like, because they need to hear that from someone that they respect and someone who they see as an authority figure, because they do want to please, even if I tell them that's not what this is about. It's like hardwired into all of us. So yeah, it's just, again, focusing on the human in front of me, as opposed to trying to create this perfect quote unquote dancer. So it's very individual and encouraging and uplifting as much as possible.
Yes. And I love the celebration part that because
It's
it's so
huge.
much fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. 100%. So it sounds like you really focus on the connection and engaging them in a way that makes sense without harsh discipline, but still
Yeah,
working towards the same goal that you would anyways,
for sure.
right? You're producing great dancers, but
Yeah.
without the negativity. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what word I'm looking for, but
No, but you're 100% right. It's the difference between fear motivated desire and like being self-motivated, right? So so many dancers, and you'll talk to people who like did dance as a kid, and they will tell you things that are horror stories to them because they were so scared of their teacher, or they were afraid their teacher would yell at them or whatever. And I was like, ooh, like, and then that stays with us as adults. As much as, I say it a lot because people are like, oh, kids are resilient. I'm like, yeah, but like, how many negative things can you remember from your childhood that like a big person made you feel? It stays with you. So recognizing that impact on these little humans is massive.
oh, 1,000%. I had a teenager in a yoga class not that long ago, and you could tell that she was a dancer while we were doing yoga class. And so afterwards I said, "Are you a dancer?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, your feet gave you away."
It's drilled into us. If
Yes.
they are off the floor, they are pointed.
Yes. So pointy. And it kind of broke my heart because she said, "Well, that was the only nice thing they ever said to me in dance." It was always about her feet, right? She had great feet, and she started talking about, but this and this and this would
Right.
be wrong.
So even
Um,
that one thing that is like so critical that so many people would die for, like, I don't have great feet. It was you have great feet,
but
but
yes.
mm-mm. No,
So in the outdated way, we won't call it old. In the
no.
outdated way, what kind of messages do dancers usually pick up in the outdated way of teaching about their bodies, good or bad?
I don't, I was going to be sassy and say, I don't think there's anything good you learn about your body in the outdated way of teaching. Whoops. That's
Well,
fine. I'm spicy.
sorry,
Deal with
not
it.
sorry.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is like, yes, those outdated methods will connect with some students. I mean, obviously we have a history of prima ballerinas, going back years and years that, were trained in that way. That being said, I think that outdated method of teaching and the strict ideals of what dance is supposed to look like and what type of people are supposed to do it. It's the same as like fashion. I really sort of parallel the two of like when you're walking a runway, you're essentially a hanger for the clothes. You're not a person. And then same way that dance was trained for a long, long time, you have to be so tall or not tall actually for the women, because if you're too tall, you can't partner with a male. And then you get on your point shoes, and that gives you an extra inch and a half, 2 inches. And all of a sudden, if you're 5'7", you might be towering over your partner. I think the tools that we also use, so not only the teachers, but the mirrors, as well as the prescribed dress code, which is tights and a leotard. Like nobody's walking around in that day to day. Like that's not like a chosen thing. It is very vulnerable. So I think to recognize the vulnerability, that is like the baseline of taking a dance class. It's you can't hide your body. There's a giant reflective surface telling you what you look like. And then there's a person of authority who you hopefully respect, hopefully not fear, but maybe do in the outdated, sort of previous methods. That's like a cauldron of disaster for students, particularly female students, and particularly preteens and teens who are going through hormonal shifts and puberty changes. Like what a stew of like feelings and emotions and hormones that can really lead to a lot of negativity. And so because of these standards, we see people who, and again, I don't want to paint everyone with a broad brush, but dance does tend to attract folks who like order, like discipline. Maybe we're type A, maybe we're firstborns, certain personality types, because what dance demands attracts, I will say us, because I will put myself in that category. And then it can be exacerbated. So controlling food, for yourself, which can lead, to disordered eating. Body dysmorphia is massive both ways, I think, like in terms of, not feeling thin enough or, feeling too thin. There's so much. It never feels like you're enough, and it never feels like you're doing the right thing sometimes. And then to have an authority figure who's there reminding you of that every time you get into class, instead of encouraging you to fuel your body and move it in ways that feel good, can be really detrimental. So I think there's a lot, and I mean, like, it's not a secret. There's so much body image and disordered eating that I think we've come a long way in terms of the dance world in shifting that so that it doesn't happen, but recognizing that it's a piece of the history and it's a piece of the puzzle, and to be aware of it is huge.
Yeah, for sure. So, how do you guys at your dance studio talk to kids about their bodies or taking care of themselves in a healthy way?
Yeah. So I think because talking about the body is inevitable, like that's the instrument that we're working with. So to pretend like we don't have one or pretend like it doesn't exist, I think is equally detrimental. My stance is to come at it from more of an anatomical approach, and I'm able to do that because I have a bachelor's degree in dance. So I have that anatomical knowledge. So when a student maybe says something about the size of their legs or the size of their body, my first reaction is usually to tell them how strong they are. I'm like, "Oh, they'll maybe say something about their tummy or their stomach, and I'll say, "Oh, your torso that's so strong and helps hold you up." Yeah, it is strong. Strong is my go-to, always, always strong. And then also talking about the muscles. So taking it away from the individual and not making it so personal is the best, I think is a great way to make it less. I don't want to make it less personal, but instead of it being I'm a bad dancer or I have big legs or I have whatever, these are muscles we all have. This is what they do. And when we strengthen them, they grow. And that's not a bad thing. So that's my real go-to. And I will say, because I have dancers of different ethnicities and like backgrounds, so being aware of skin tone, making sure that the tights and the shoes match their skin tone, or if a student ever says something about their coloring, always recognizing that I'm like, yeah, like it's great. Now we have a rainbow or what have you, or we're all pieces of the puzzle. I don't want a puzzle that's all one color. That's not a very interesting puzzle. So finding ways to enhance and encourage them, I basically flip their words on them and to remind them how powerful their body is, how strong their body is, and how much it does for them. Because they do get hyperfixated on like small, we all do. We get hyperfixated on small parts and we forget to zoom out and look at the whole picture. So that's huge for me. Reminding kids how strong they are is huge for me, because that would have changed my mindset. Like, and I had a teacher who said that to me once in university, actually. And I was like, now it didn't mean a lot to me then, but now I'm like, yeah, my body is strong. Yeah, of course it is. Like that's, so it is, I know personally that can be really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. The strong. And that's something that I remind the kids that I work with a lot too is like, look at all the amazing things that your body can do.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So, what can parents watch for when it comes to body image? So I know you're looking for it in studio.
Mhm.
What do the parents need to look for? And maybe twofold. What do they need to look for when they're looking for a dance studio to make
Mhm.
sure that that dance studio is providing some of those healthier ways to talk about ourselves and our bodies? And what do they need to watch for when they're with their children when they're in
Right.
dance?
Oof. Okay.
I know it's a big one.
No, it's good. I think let's let's tackle the at home, because I think too sometimes parents might not hear what kids are saying about themselves at home in the same way that I would in the studio, just based on like what we're doing. So sometimes it's more obvious to the dance educators or the people in that realm than at home, possibly. I mean, as always, like, be aware of what they're saying, how they're talking about themselves, and also, man, and also the relationship to food, which is like so tricky. And just finding the I mean, I've seen a lot of really great like parenting information online where it's like, because we don't want to deny kids anything, because we don't want to demonize candy or chocolate or carbs or whatever it is, because we need all of it. It's all important. And modeling, I think modeling is huge for adults and especially parents. So if you're a parent who has like 1 teaspoon of ice cream after dinner and then says, oh, I can't have, like, really being mindful of how you act around your kids is massive. And I think a lot of parents know that now. It's very different than, I'll say, when I grew up. And I have an almond mom and I love her dearly, but she's still a human who's like, oh my gosh, I'm just so full. I'll never. And my sister and I are like, we cannot, like, babe. So just being mindful of that sort of, love you, mom. Just being mindful of that sort of stuff. She knows we give her a hard time about it all the time. But yeah, really being mindful about how you're modeling. And then in terms of, I mean, I have a lot of, I don't think they're spicy. But some folks will think they're spicy. I think it's your due diligence as an adult to vet and research a dance studio thoroughly before signing your child up. Hands down, absolutely, like, period. Dance is an unregulated industry. So anyone can open a dance studio. Now, that's not to say that there aren't governing bodies within the community, but they do not have an overarching regulatory board the way if you were to go to a chiropractor or something like that. So ensuring that the staff is qualified, because they don't have to be. They could have just trained as a dancer their whole life, like I did, and start teaching at 17, which I did, and then never take any additional training.
Which you did not do.
Which I didn't. Yeah, I have a lot. So yeah, that's where we're going to skewer right there.
Right.
But it happens all the time. And I will say that's not to negate that in the studio work is so beneficial, because I wouldn't be the teacher I was if I didn't have that in studio practice. But I don't think that's enough, and I don't think it's safe, because it's continuing to perpetuate what you were taught. And that's why we still have these old patterns emerging in studios. Vet. Ensure they're transparent about their fees. Know exactly what you're paying, when you're paying it, what the withdrawal process is, and try a class, ask to watch a class, ask to meet the owner. And then what I honestly think is maybe even more, it's so unfortunate, is like, ask the kids who are dancing, like, see if you can talk to a senior dancer. It's tricky though, because everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, it's great. So you don't really know until you go. So go try it. And then also remember that you're the client. And if you are unhappy with how things are going on either side, for you or for your child, can you talk to the director or artistic director owner about it? Do they actually listen to your concerns? Do they implement changes or offer solutions, or do they offer lip service? And you are the client. You are a paying client. You can go anywhere. Yes, loyalty is great, and I'm not denying don't not be loyal. Great grammar. But if there are things that you're unhappy with and there aren't changes, you do not need to stay somewhere that is not a good fit for your family. And that's hard, but also remember that your kid gets one childhood. So I just think it's so, so important. Like, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. And the studio owners should be, I have to listen to my own advice here. The studio owners should be good enough and open enough to be like, you know what? This is who we are. And we see that this isn't the right space for you. And you can grow out of a studio too. So, you know, just being aware that it's a two-way street and you're paying money for a thing for your child to do. So you should get what you want out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great advice. That's like, we need a whole list with bullet points.
I know. That's a lot. I think my biggest thing is like, it is a two-way street, and the studio should be the expert in how to train children how to dance, and you are the expert in your child, and you work together. And if ever those values aren't aligned, that you have the freedom, you should never feel guilty or pressured to stay somewhere. And
Oh
it
my
happens a lot.
goodness.
I think it
Yes.
happens a lot.
So
And not just in dance, but like across the board.
that's what I was going to say. Like, that's just self-advocacy in general. But
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. I love that. Yeah. You're
yeah.
right. Yeah.
But people do, they struggle with it in all different areas.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
tell me a little bit, because I know you're training great dancers, but it sounds like you guys find a way to kind of make it fun or engaging. So is there something that you do to make it more playful, or what do you bring to the classroom that's maybe a little bit different?
I bring me.
Yes.
That's like
You
such
are
a,
the unique value.
I am the unique, I know that sounds really cheesy, but, or I shouldn't say, but, and I've learned that is my value. I've always been, regardless of where I've worked, because I have worked as a contractor. That's how a lot of dance teachers work. I have always been the fun dance teacher, the silly dance teacher, the funny dance teacher. Yet my dances are also very strong. And it's shocking to me that sometimes colleagues will underwrite me because my class is loud, we're goofy, we're laughing, we're having fun. And yet I get results. So I will say that a big part of it is my personality. I am very fun. Dance is joy. Dance is fun. It is wild to me that folks take that out of the equation. Because you're not going to get the best outcomes, the best learning outcomes, by just like being a dictator and like super enforceful. So the kids always want to play games, and I remind them, I'm like, we're not at gym, we're not at recess, but we can play this dance game. And even my dance games are like not really games. They're always structured learning opportunities that are fun and aren't just technique based. So we play something called high low in a lot of my classes. I actually learned it from a colleague, and it's an improvisation game where the students can do whatever movement they want. It just has to be on a certain level. So we start low, where the kids have to stay on the floor. And I said, you can do anything you want. You can roll, you can somersault, you can log roll, you can slide, whatever. That's the only rule ish. I tell them I don't want them to repeat, because I don't want them to just log roll the whole way across. And that's about it.
Yeah.
And they have to get from one side of the room to the other. Children nowadays don't have tons of free, unstructured movement opportunities. And I see it. I see the kids struggle with this game because they want to do it right, which I'm like, there is no right.
Like, we just made this up. There's no right.
100%. Yes. And And also sometimes they struggle because they don't know what to do, because they've never been they've never been challenged to move in that way before, which I'm like, oh, we will never stop playing this game now. Like, it's totally necessary. So we'll do low, then we do medium, where like the ceiling is squished. So they have to like really live in like a squat sort of position and still dance. And then third is high, where I'm like, you're a firework, you're exploding. Every movement is a jump. Every movement we're trying to touch the ceiling. So kinesthetic learners and just understanding body awareness, spatial awareness, because they often go across with other people. So there's a lot happening there, and it's very fun. I get requests to play it all the time. And sometimes I'm like, we don't have time today. I can't play that game. And then they're very sad.
Right.
That's one that I really like. And we also play a negative space game. This is actually a concept I learned at university, and I am teaching it to like 8-year-olds because I think it's super honestly, it helps me do my job better. Where the kids have to make a shape with a lot of negative space, so holes around their body. They can't be just standing with their legs together and their arms at the side. They have to make a shape like a puzzle piece.
Mhm.
And then their partner has to make a shape around their partner. So they have to fill in the holes.
Wow.
So they're looking at a body, they're seeing the holes, and then they have to take their body and be a puzzle piece to their partner. And then the first partner steps away, they look at the new shape, and then they have to fill it in. So I really like smart dancers, which is clearly what I'm creating with this game. And again, it's body awareness, it's creativity, it's working with a partner. Yeah. So those are two of my favorite games that like get requested a lot. And even the big kids want to play high low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. That sounds like so much fun.
It is really fun. It's really fun.
Okay, so something you said really stuck out to me
Oh,
about kids now not having a lot of time for just unstructured movement, play,
yeah.
right? So tell me a little bit why you think programs like dance or other movement-based classes are so important right now because of that.
Yeah. Oop. All right. Soapbox moment.
Yes,
Um,
get all the way on it.
I feel like I'm never not on it, but that's all
Yeah.
right. I mean, and I've seen this happening for a while, is the movement that our body naturally is able to do has, it's not that it can't do it anymore, but because kids aren't given these unstructured opportunities to play, um these processes are weakening. So like kids, I used to have 3-year-olds who could come in and skip no problem. But that action, I don't know if it's because we're not outside at recess as much. I mean, honestly, we're in front of screens, and we know in the education system as well, standardized, like all these things, right? And we know these things that are taking up our children's time. But again, we feel a lack of time. So it's like, well, I need them to get good grades because of, we're looking down the line or what have you. So then these programs, whatever you're choosing to do, soccer, gymnastics, t-ball, dance, these are the places where we used to train more specifically for what I'll say for dance for sure. I used to train children how to dance more, and I would be able to progress maybe a little bit faster with the technique. Now I'm going back, and a lot of my early first year students or kinder ballet, I'm like, oh, this is creative movement. We are working on a lot of body awareness and mastering some of these gross motor skills that used to come a little bit more organically through that unstructured play than they do now, just because of how culturally like folks have changed. So again, lots of skipping, lots of working in opposition, just how our body naturally moves, like when we walk. That's a concept that's tricky for the kiddos when we have to apply it in the dance realm. Yeah. So I know for myself for dance, I can't just jump into my curriculum. I sometimes have to reinforce the basic movement principles that might have come through play, riding bike, playing hopscotch, pumping your legs on a swing, these sorts of things. And it's been really interesting to see how children like to move now. Yeah, because we'll even play like a game with the littles, freeze dance, which is when the music's on, you get to do whatever you want. When the music stops, you freeze. And the kids often some children have a real hard time because they haven't been told what to do. And it's so heartbreaking to me because I used to have classes of 5-year-olds who were like maniacs
all
during
over the
freeze
place.
dance.
Yeah.
Yes. Maniacs in the best way. Sorry,
Right.
I say maniac with love. Like, they just, the freedom of what we think children would do when we turn on a Disney princess song. And to see it shift to students who are self-conscious, self-aware, don't know what to do, want to please, don't, and that's heartbreaking. And so I go, okay, so dance has really become more about life lessons now and more about understanding the body. And yes, I will still train those kiddos on how to dance, but it might take a little longer. We might not progress quite as fast as we might have in the past. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it allows children to be children a little bit longer for sure. But yeah, that's really, really what I'm seeing. And it's society in general. I'm guilty of it too. We sit a lot and we're in front of screens. So it's across the board. So adults also get into those dance classes.
Yeah. I was going to say, look at us right now in front of our
Yeah,
staring at each
100%.
other.
Oh, I know.
So let me ask you, because we talked about fun stuff and you talked about your games, but what is one boundary that you hold in class that you're like, nope, hard stop. This is the rule.
Oh, I was gonna be like, nobody gets my phone number. That's my boundary. But
that's a good one.
it is. That's a pretty hard and fast boundary. Only
Yeah.
a handful of my students. I know, not until they get older. Even the parents, I'm like, the studio has an email.
Right.
My hard and fast. It's tricky because it's not to say that I don't hold boundaries, but nothing is a non-negotiable in my class. I think it's all in how you approach it, and that's also how I approach my life. But how that's where I'll say right now with some of the kiddos I have, I didn't realize what love bugs they were. And I love a hug. I love a hug. These kids started climbing on me to a point where I was like, I need my body back. So we've really started, and it's a small class. So we're very close. And so they'll grab onto my arm or they'll, and I'm like, I need my body back. And they're starting to recognize that boundary. And not only me modeling that is working, but it's working between them as well. So now instead of rushing over to someone if they seem hurt or their friend wants to love on them, the kids will stand with their arms out. And sometimes they don't get a hug in return. That's when things break down and I'm like, oop, okay, we got to have a chat, which is like fine. But also recognizing I'm like, well, she didn't want to have a hug right now and that you do. So we have to respect that because sometimes, it's all of these things of modeling and teaching the kids boundaries. It's often with my personal space because I use my laptop and the kids want to come around and see. And I'm like, oh baby, I got things on here. I don't need you to see my playlist. There's songs on there. I'm like, this is my Spotify. Like, no. Right. So, and just reminding the students of that. And I think making sure at the beginning of the year, you outline those guidelines. I think that's really important to set. Here's the guidelines and expectations of the classroom. Yeah. I have a no screaming boundary. I'm like, there's no screaming unless you're dying or like your arm got cut off. Like, no, there's no screaming. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. There's no running around.
Right. What's your best tip for getting inside voices?
Oh, it's just not allowed. As soon as someone screams, I go, no, thank you. No, thank you is huge in my class. I'm like, no, thank you. And they go, oh. Or I'll be like, are we outside right now? I also remind them because they know. I'll be like, is that behavior? Do we do that at ballet class? Is that behavior permitted? Because again, it's not the child that's wrong. They're being a child. They're being a kid. I'm like, I want to remind you that in this space, we need to be mindful that this is how we act. And that, different places require different levels of us. And then that's okay. Yeah. And for everybody's learning benefit as well. A lot of no thank yous.
Great. I love
and
that.
just a full stop of like whatever. Oh, the fun will stop now. Like that is, I will say, like, because when the kids get too rambunctious or, and they start screaming, I'm like, music's off. They'll look at me and I'll go, how do we fix it? They're like, don't scream. I'm like, yeah. And the music goes back on. But that's the thing is the consequence, like making sure that you hold up to like, if we're not following the guidelines, we just stop.
Right. There's success criteria for the poses and there's success criteria for the classroom and how we act in the classroom.
100%. And that just because you scream once and I turn the music off and we take a pause, it doesn't mean that we're done for the day. You get another chance. The music comes on again. You get another chance. So again, teaching students that like mistakes aren't failure. We just have to take a moment to recognize, whoop, and then we can get back into it.
Right. It's all fixable. Yeah.
100% it's all fixable. Yeah.
All right, Leslie, that was so much fun. Thank you so much. So can you tell everybody where to connect with you, where to find you?
Yes, please. I am, this is going to feel weird. So I am on Instagram at Leslie Kuny. It's just my name, LeslieKuny. That's my dance educator profile where I have a hard time showing up as myself, but I try. And if you scroll back a little bit further, I have some good tips and tricks. I'll try to get back into that. But I also just launched my own podcast called Dancing Through It, which while I will say is a podcast through a dance lens, because I'm talking to dance educators and parents and, people in business, I think there's a lot of value, even if maybe you're not in the dance space. I know I've had a few sort of like traditional educators who like to follow me because I have a different lens to look through. So if you like, or even if you're just kind of interested about dance, because we do talk about some nitty gritty, like what it's like to work on a TV set or like a musical and that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty fun. We're on YouTube, again, at Leslie Kuny Dance. But if you go over to my Instagram, you'll find it. And it's been really fun. I'm learning a lot. A lot.
A lot. All right. Thank you so much, Leslie. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who cares about showing up well for kids. And if you feel called to create real impact in your own community through movement, mindfulness, and whole child learning, you can find out more about becoming a certified PlayMotion Kids instructor at playmotionkids.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, don't forget to make a little time to play, and now get out there and go save the world.